I want to thank everyone for coming, and for the ladies to having this, and the examiner. We appreciate that. My name is Milo Schaffner. I'm from Van Wert County, better known as the wind capital of Ohio. We have lots of wind turbines. If you want some, I'll give you a few. But I'm a trustee right now. I've been elected my 4th term, which means I've got my 13th, starting my 13th year as trustee. I was on the school board for 8 years, Lincoln View Local School Board. Served my last 5 years as president. And I stopped running on the school board because my youngest son had graduated. So I feel that the people on the school board should have children in school. That way they're more involved. I'm a grandparent now, and I suppose I could still be involved, but you're not as involved as a grandparent as you are a parent. So I gave that up. We started Schaffner Tool and Die many years ago, 1985. My wife and I still own it. I don't work there one. What I do now is go up one day a week for about 2 hours and eat with my son and grandson and just talk, and then I go back home. So it's a real hard job for me. I farm. We farm about 1,100 acres, so that's what I do full time now. I'm 66 years young. I think any more 65 is not old. Definitely not when you're 66. But I do have a lot of experience that I think I could bring to the state senate race. And I would really appreciate your consideration. And there's lots of things that I could tell you to continue on with the farming, the trustee, and the school board. I've dealt with all types of budgets with our factory. I've dealt with a lot of individuals. So I thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you. As a pastor, I don't know if I can get my first opening in 2 minutes, but I'm going to do my best. So people ask why we're running for this position, and it's really kind of boiled down to 2 points. Number one, I'm very concerned with the lack of common sense and the lack of the loss of our liberty, or the loss of our liberty that is taking place in not only in our state, but also in our federal government. And those things are concerning me very much. As a father, one of the things I'm very concerned about is the loss of liberty of parents, the right for parents to decide educational decisions for our children, and local school boards to make those decisions. I don't know, most of you probably are very familiar with a piece of standard that has now came into our state called Common Core standards. Common Core standards are stripping away parents' rights. We just recently in Salina had a parent who was submitted some paperwork for her child to be opted out of some standards, and she was told by the superintendent that she no longer had the right as a parent to opt her child out of a testing that she didn't agree with. That concerns me. As a former business owner, I started 2 businesses from the ground up, brought them into a place of prosperity, sold them off, and moved on. But as a former business owner, I'm extremely concerned about the way that we're calling our budget balanced. My opponent, Cliff Height, says that they've balanced the budget in the state of Ohio. One of the things is they've balanced it with disappearing ink. We were told if we expand Medicaid, we'd get $400 million. Well, guess what? $400 million isn't there. We were told that fracking would generate $362 million. Guess what? Maybe $42 million. So I could balance a budget with disappearing ink, but that's not the way you do things in business, and it's not the way you do things in the state. We became, over the last 5 years, we've actually went from being 30% dependent on federal dollars to well over 40% dependent on federal dollars. Every federal dollar ties us to the values and the standard of the federal government, and that's not okay with me. Thank you.
Right, so this is going to be a multi-part question, and we'll address it a couple of different ways. So the question itself, which Mr. Schaffner, you'll go first. You've chosen to run against the incumbent. What is the issue you feel most strongly about? And what do you believe is inadequate in Senator Cliff Height's ability to address that issue, and how he would address that issue? So you'll answer the question, and then Mr. Shankleton, you'll have the answer to return that. And then it'll be your question again to have your primary issue, and then Mr. Schaffner will answer it. Okay.
The reason I decided to run was the experience that I've gained as a school board member, as a township trustee. You know, they have cut our local government funding. If you're a trustee, you know what that means. If you're a librarian, you know what that means. If you're a city village or a mayor, you know what that means. They say they have balanced the budget, and I could balance any budget as long as I took money away from somebody else's account. That's very easy to do. And that's what has happened. And I believe it's time that some of that be restored. And that's one of the reasons that I have decided to run. Another reason is I believe our state legislature should be proactive, not reactive. We are reacting to what is happening instead of being proactive, educating ourselves as legislators and looking into the future. For years, many of you know that I have been out speaking. The OTA had me down as a speaker during the winter conference a couple years ago. I spoke at Northwest Conference. I spoke all over Northwest Ohio concerning energy. We have an energy crisis that a lot of people don't understand, but in a few years you will understand. Senate Faber has been in Lima. Ford Motor Company has asked to be let out of the RPS standards, the Renewable Portfolio Standards. Why? Because it's costing them millions of dollars, which means jobs. Timken Bearing in Senate Bill 310 just recently testified that it's costing them $2 million a year for renewable portfolio standards. These things are why I want to run. Also, with this renewable portfolio standard, Senate Bill 310, they have Common Core bill that was introduced last year into committee. It's still laying there. As far as I know, they've had one hearing. They say they're going to have that by the end of May. Why didn't they have Common Core done by now? Thank you.
I'm going to try to answer the question, and the question was, why did we choose to run against the incumbent? You know, there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that I'm very concerned about with Senator Hyde. And to be honest with you, if I didn't feel that we were the best candidate, we wouldn't be here. I pastor a church. I have a family. I'd much rather be at home with them, to be quite honest. But I feel that our forefathers set this up in a manner and in a way to where we serve our country as out of an obligation and out of a need. And some of the things I've been very concerned about with Senator Hyde is the fact that he seems to waver quite a bit on issues. If you go to the Bryan Times, he talks about two issues. Number one, he talks about Common Core. And at the beginning of this campaign, our state senator actually said Ohio does not have Common Core, and Ohio does not partake in any kind of Common Core standards. And you can find that in the Bryan Times. As of recently, as he's found out that voters are very educated on this issue, the tune has changed. In the Bryan Times, our senator said that he wouldn't vote for a piece of legislation that's very near and dear to my heart called the heartbeat bill. He said they're ineffective, they don't work, that he wouldn't touch it anytime soon. A few weeks later, he stood, or he sent a letter into the Van Wert County Patriots and said, I'd vote for the heartbeat bill in a heartbeat. And so, so I don't know if that means he's very proactive about ineffective bills or not, but whatever that means is that he talks on both sides of the equation. I think Senator Hyde is a wonderful, nice guy. Matter of fact, I think he's a good old boy. But the last thing we need in Columbus is good old boys. The last thing we need in Columbus is more politicians. People say, what is your greatest qualification for this office? I'm the only person running who's not a politician.
Please discuss your philosophy on state spending, including your opinion on local government funding, what programs are paramount, and what is the best method of funding those would be.
I'm back. I have a very straightforward method and philosophy on state spending as well as federal spending. I think it actually goes the same at all levels. Number one, we have found in our nation, we have a free enterprise system, that businesses and individuals do better with the least amount of government influence. The less the government is involved, the better we do. Because as individuals, we know what it means to make good decisions for our lives and for our localities. One of the things that I am very concerned about, and I talked about this in my opening, is the fact that we went from 30% dependent on federal dollars over into well over 40% dependent on federal dollars. At the same time, our current leaders are saying, oh, look, haven't we done a wonderful job? Well, the problem with that is then whoever has the money, or if you've ever had anything to do with business, you understand whoever has the highest degree of shares in a company calls the shots. I don't think it's good business for Ohio to put ourselves in a position where the federal government has the highest sharehold in our state. Ohioans should have the highest control of our state. And so it's very simple. We need to fund our government, our state government by ourselves. Well, how do we do that? How do we fund local governments? People say, I want to, as an elected official, give more money back to the local government. Hey, I've got a better idea. How about we just take less of it to begin with? How about if we cut things that don't need to be cut? Or we cut things that we don't need? A Medicaid expansion. That is bad legislation. That is bad government. We've expanded government. It should not be expanded. It's costly government. Common Core is going to cost us over $600 million to fully implement. Who's going to pay for that? For an untested, unproven, intrusive curriculum.
Well, I'd like to say I'm not a politician. I'm a statesman. I accomplish things without being scheming to do it. The state funding, if you look at the budget, one thing that I'm very, very sincere about is, in our generation, never have so many owed so few. And I'm speaking about our veterans. In the new budget, the governor has put in that he will try and streamline for our veterans, that they can get college credits without having to pay for them. They will get more benefits. I think they are very deserving of that. That's part of the budget that I would not touch. I think our veterans deserve that. I do believe that some of the government funding should be restored to our libraries and so forth. How are we going to do that? Well, maybe there's some other areas that we could cut in. I don't believe we should cut with our local law enforcement. I believe we need to improve that. As your judges sat here and talked about the epidemic really that we have with drug use with our young people. Almost, as the one judge said, almost every one of us have had that touch our lives. And that's horrible. We need to give the money to the law enforcement and give them what they need to fight this. And I think that includes maybe more patrol cars, a few more officers, but I do believe we need to do that. I do believe that we as township trustees, we were asked to share services, and we did. We have 3 townships. We went together. We bought all our own equipment to do our own chipping and sealing, and we do that to save money for the townships. So we have done things like that. We've also cut insurance benefits to try and save money. So thank you.
All right, we're going to finish with closing remarks. Mr. Shankleton, you can go first.
We've talked about quite a few issues here this evening, but really to bring it into perspective, one of our founding fathers said this, that our form of republic would work as long as 2 things stayed in place. Number 1, we would stay a moral society. And number 2, that the people would not figure out that they could elect individuals that would give to them unmerited things. We have rapidly entered into both of those things. Our morals are under attack in the state. I don't know how many, and this may be a hot topic issue, but I'm pretty famous for hot topic issues. There's an attack against marriage in our state. Our current senator voted to grant special rights to the homosexual agenda while discriminating against Christian business owners. That's not okay. Even if you agree with the opposite side of that, legislation is not good when you're trying to defend one to discriminate against another. And so really at the very core of this, we have to restore the heart and the spirit of our republic back in. We have to, and this is why I love these kind of events. This is the greatest measure of government that exists, is we the people. That when we sovereignly gather and allow our heart and our values to be known, and we stand and hold our elected officials accountable to represent those values, things will change. As a pastor for over 15 years, I understand what it means to be held accountable, to walk the walk of what you've taught. One time early on, Milo says, I didn't become a pastor because I didn't want to be in a fishbowl. I've lived in the fishbowl. I understand what it's like. And so I ask for your vote on May 6th. Thank you.
Thomas Jefferson once said, to compel a man to furnish contributions of money for the propagation of opinions which he abhors is sinful and tyrannical. Have not we come to that point here? Not only in our state, but our federal government. Our state government says under Senate Bill 221, you have to buy energy from within the state when it's more expensive than what you can buy from outside of the state. They have finally realized it's starting to cost jobs. That's what's coming. So we need to get Senate Bill 310 passed, and hopefully the committee that it makes will do the right thing and do away with the renewable portfolio standards. Corey here said that I'm a politician. Like I said, I'm not a politician because the definition of a politician is one actively engaged in politics, often used with implications of seeking personal and political gain or scheming. I've never done that. I'm a self-giver. When I go around and speak to people that I've spoke for, I've never taken anything. I do it out of the goodness of my heart to help my fellow man. I call myself a statesman because I'm one who is wise, experienced in the business of government. I have used that experience to get our township association to pass Senate Bill 34. And then we took that to the state, and we got the state, Ohio Township Association, 1,308 townships to say, yes, we stand with you, and we support Senate Bill 34, which is to do away with renewable portfolio standards, which would do away with an unconstitutional mandate. We have an opinion from attorney Coffee Holder and Griswold that is, they believe, unconstitutional. It violates the Interstate Commerce Clause. So I appreciate your time, and I ask for your vote this May 6th. Thank you.
The candidates for the 85th District Ohio Representatives would like to come